Alrighty, guys, welcome to another episode of Token Talks. It's your host, Todd Pierce and Jarrad Park here. And today we're joined by a fabulous guest. Her name is Sian, and she is going to be chatting to us about all things Web3 marketing. And she's from a company called MoonLanding, who do some really cool stuff. It's a pleasure to have you here, Sian. How are you?
Thank you. Really good, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So look, guys, we're going to dive straight into this, and I'm going to throw it straight to you, Sian. I guess just for the people that are watching and listening, can you kind of let them know who you are, what you do, and I guess give them some, expectations about what to expect from this episode?
Amazing. So I'm a Web3 founder. I've co-founded multiple projects from NFTs to decentralized exchanges, centralized exchanges, marketplaces, etc. And kind of just bridged a lot of that knowledge into what I do on my day-to-day life, which is working with MoonLanding Media, doing a lot of the strategic structuring to help new projects launch. So we provide very similar to a launch pad strategy from start to finish with all the marketing, development, and kind of just run that whole process with our amazing projects.
Awesome. That's really, really cool. And you said you're a founder as well. What kind of projects have you been involved with and founded?
Well, there's been multiple. Some have been very, very decentralized, and others more within the centralized realm. One that's pretty exciting that is getting a lot of buzz recently is DeFi Link. So DeFi Link is building out some incredible projects like Metaverse builds. We do marketplaces, many DeFi protocols. And so we actually have a partnership with MoonLanding Media, which goes hand in hand with the marketing and development side. Just so that we can bring that tech, the decentralized technology, to either Web2 or Web3 platforms. And we're working, I can't say too much about this now, but we have just hired a whole team of AI execs, and they are strategically bringing in AI to a lot of the projects we're currently working on.
That's cool.
We do love a good project here, Todd. We'll drop some hot alpha on us, whenever you feel ready, Sian.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
So, look, I'm assuming you've not always been involved with Web3, especially because Web3 is still relatively new. So, I guess what's kind of led you to here? What's your hero story, your backstory that kind of led you in this position where you are now?
Well, I was very lucky. When I was living in London, I fell in with a company called Matterport, which is absolutely incredible. They were and still are one of the founders or four founders of the virtual reality boom. They created some incredible 3D technology, bridged in with VR, and really started leading that space. So I was very lucky to work with these guys. We went from a basement level kind of office in London, not seeing any light for so long, just working, to eventually this massive penthouse. The office was incredible, and these guys just took it to a whole new level. So I think that really encouraged my love for this kind of tech. And now within Web3, I can definitely see a lot of, for example, Metaverse is bridging into the 3D or the VR space. And so it was kind of a natural progression that when Web3 kind of came to my doorstep, admittedly, not at the beginning, not when I first heard about it, but when it became very, very relevant for me to make a jump into this space, I just launched. I knew that it was going to be something very big for myself and my team. And so I think I jumped in initially with investing. That was great to get that kind of understanding, and then just building projects, and now consistently just advising strategically on 30 plus projects at the moment.
Wicked. Or here's a random question for you. What was the first token or coin that you purchased?
Oh, good question. It was Bitcoin, of course.
Of course. That's the Mac Daddy, that's why.
Yeah, I did make some riskier investments. I actually got into Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and Cardano before they had boomed. So I very risky. I like to do a lot of calculated buying, so I know what's good and what will go up, the safer ones. But the risks, yeah, I'm a bit of a risk taker. I think we all are in this space.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about balancing those risks versus rewards, right? The greater the risk, typically the greater the reward, but also greater the downside if you make a mistake.
Yeah, so true.
It's funny because, in our cohort here at Black Tie, I'm very much I'm more so the Bitcoin maxi, and then Jarrad's like the altcoin maxi. So we regularly have robust discussions. They're good ones. We chat before we jumped on this call, and one thing you did mention to me, Sian, was that currently you're working with MoonLanding, but that wasn't always the case. So could you kind of explain how that process kind of occurred? Because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so very similar to a lot of founders that I imagine might be jumping into this call, this podcast. I started off as a founder. I had my core team. We were rocking it, doing amazing things. We thought all we needed to do was essentially put out to social media, to Twitter and to Discord about our project, and we'd sell out. That was not the case. Even 2 years ago, during the bull market, it still took a little more work than just that. I remember going to specific people like influencers thinking they'd sell it out. And honestly, they were so bad, so bad. I think most founders have a story on why an influencer is bad. I think a lot of people have experienced that in the industry. But it's so different. We actually came from a traditional marketing background, but nothing translated at the get-go. So nothing was the same. The platforms are different. It's now Twitter and Discord. You're not going to run like Google ads typically or Facebook ads. It's more about the degen community, how to get around that. So we're very lucky. After I went through a few mistakes and a lot of money, we then found MoonLanding, and they helped me launch my first project. And I've been working with them ever since, just to help other people kind of find the path and go through that process, hopefully avoiding the pains that I went through personally.
Yeah. And I think you're starting to touch on a really important point, and something that we did want to touch on in this podcast, which there is a big difference between Web3/degen. For those at home that don't know what degen means, it's degenerate. The degen marketing of the Web3 landscape and traditional marketing. And as you said, they don't translate. So could you kind of just unpack that a little bit more for those that are watching and listening? I guess, what are the big differences? And I guess what's really important when it comes to doing Web3 marketing right?
It's so different. My biggest learning was that I, as a founder, don't want to do it myself. I want to find a team, and what MoonLanding has created is that team that can take care of the really hard things, because it's a lot of work. With Web3, it's all about community. Your community will dictate if you are successful or not. Will they invest? Will they not invest? Will you follow what they want? You really have to bend towards the will of the community. If they say go left, you kind of have to, or you'll just lose that investment. So getting to understand them within a platform that's very different to anything traditional, like Discord. That is something for people to get around, understanding how to actually use such a different path of social media, and then monetizing it. The main way that you will monetize your NFT project to actually build yourself up to a level where you can launch, or if I'm talking about NFTs currently, as that's the majority of our clients at the moment. We do service ICOs or DEX or whatever, but NFTs are pretty hot right now. It's mainly through collabing, and collabing is just partnering with another project that's very similar and getting them to share you. As a founder, I could probably spend 12 hours a day doing this and maybe get 10 different collabs per day. What MoonLanding Media can now do is give 300 collabs per week for highly specialized projects, and just consistently recycle that. as well as getting in with the big names like Neo Tokyo, Azuki, Bored Ape. They will get you in front of people like this, and whether or not they collab now, it's down to if they love you. But trying to get, like for me, trying to do that on my own, just starting off without those connections, it's hard, because it's no longer about how much money you can spend on traditional ads. It's how many people are in that network and how your community responds to what you're doing. It's all community led.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like that. And also, you know, tapping into other people's communities and audiences is what I think I just heard you said right there, right? So these collabs, you really, you know, it's not necessarily about how much noise you can make. It's about, well, how can you strategically align yourself with other people's communities so that they get value and obviously you grow your community too. Would that be like an appropriate summarization of it?
Exactly. It's like the rising tide lifts all boats. So all of Web3 is just about collabing and adding on for each other. And that's just the nature of it. So as soon as you get the network, being able to collaborate and cross-pollinate communities levels everyone up together. It's a really beautiful industry with that.
So, you know, I myself come from a very traditional background, and usually when a marketer thinks about marketing a product, you think about audience, message, and offer, right? So from your perspective, how would you, so let's say, for example, you've got a founder, they've got a new NFT project, they're looking at going out there and doing some collaborations with other established communities. What kind of offers would be good for these founders to kind of, I guess, present to these communities? Like what would actually be attractive? Because it's not going to be the same as Web2 or traditional marketing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's actually, it's not as hard as you think. The majority of what other people will be interested in, other projects, they actually want to add value to their community. So you just need to, as a founder, start thinking what will add value to their specific community. The majority of the time, it's offering free whitelist spots. So it's very easy to build up collaborations and partnerships by offering 25 free whitelist spots to all of their community. If they jump into your Discord right now, they say their name, where they're from, go to support chat, and claim. For these guys, they now have the opportunity to get into a project at an early stage. So they're giving value to their community because they're giving them access to new hot projects. And for the actual founder who's creating this new projects, they're getting all the investor list. So they're also equally adding value.
Yeah, that's actually good. So just for those that are listening who are more traditional based, right, not necessarily Web3 natives, could you just explain in more detail, like what would be like a whitelist?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked these questions because my brain is so Web3. It gets difficult to even realize you need to unpack. So yeah, a whitelist is very simply just an investor list. So it will be someone who has expressed interest by giving over their email address, their name, and their wallet ID to their crypto wallet, just saying, I would like to buy. Their wallet ID is not any secret key. You cannot gain access. I'd like to make that very aware, but it allows your smart contract developers on the back end to open up to their specific wallets to allow them to buy in an early access sale. So that's typically how sales will work. There'll be an early whitelist access and then a public access for everyone. If you're in the whitelist access, you can get it at a lower price typically, or some more added extras.
Yep. So I guess as a founder, I guess the decision that you've then got at your disposal really is, okay, well, what am I going to give as part of my whitelist? Is that right?
Yeah.
What are some common offers that you find are quite well received?
It's a good question because it's getting very competitive right now, and the market is it's really adverse to any kind of rug pull or scam. So last year, before the bear market happened, there were a lot of people making big promises, a lot of founders that then just ran away after making their millions. And it was very hard for the crypto community to go through. So now they are hyper aware on what the project is actually providing. And they have, because of this, a higher level of what they need for them to want to invest. So currently there are specific things like kind of building in with real life events and Metaverse. That's quite a hot thing, getting involved in the Metaverse. It is said to be, oh, don't quote me on this right now, something like an $8 trillion opportunity from Goldman Sachs, the Metaverse. So owning potential stake, potential land inside there is a very hot opportunity for someone with a growth mindset who looks at the industry to build this generational wealth. There's a lot of people that view Web3 as that access point to set up their whole life and their family for the future. Or it could be utility, again, playing on the safety fact and understanding we have to do something to show people that we are here for the long run, tying into some real world goods, some real world assets. We are working currently with a $1 billion gold mine who's backing their NFTs with physical gold. And the end goal is to create smart cities in North Africa. So that is a very, very cool project. It's all, you can prove everything through tracking on the blockchain. It's fully visible. You can see where the gold is, how much gold has been mined. And then the NFT has that physical backed property, meaning that it has that intrinsic value. It will always go up, or at least stay the same based on that real world asset.
Interesting. So you are currently, to the best of my understanding, working with / advising roughly 30 or so projects right now, yeah? And I'm sure there's been other ones as well along the way, what are the biggest mistakes you find that founders make, and how can they, I guess, correct that course? Or how can they correct that mistake?
Yeah, it's a good question. It usually comes down, or what I've seen the most is coming down to budgeting is a big thing for this space, and being aware of where to actually put the budget. For example, although we work with our set projects and they're incredible, they're already highly vetted, and they've got a whole team advising them. They have that kind of knowledge. For new projects, I might see 10 to 20 new projects per week that have already been pre-vetted by other team members, other staff. And the one thing that I see from these guys coming forward is they might have spent $200,000 on development, which is a big amount, and then have $20,000 left for their marketing, hoping to make 3 million or whatever it might be, and the maths just doesn't add up. So it's
it's funny because that there is not even a Web3 centric problem that occurs. It's very common for a lot of companies to misallocate their budget, where they don't put enough money towards sales and marketing, and they spend all this money on development. I saw it so many times back in 2016, 17, 18 when I was running that co-working space. And it's like, you could have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then
you got
nobody wants the Betamax to the VHS, right? Might have been better technology, but it didn't win that war. So, and I would think as well in the Web3 space, it'd be kind of like that, like a U-shaped graph, right? You'd have a whole bunch of companies that didn't allocate anywhere near enough for marketing, but spent a lot on the tech. And that's that kind of that real tech-driven, code background guys with great ideas on how to build something, but maybe struggle a bit when it comes how to release it, how to implement it, how to get it out in people's hands. But let's face it, there's also going to be a huge number on the other side of the spectrum where they come into this with like a $200,000 marketing budget, and they've put together a template smart contract for their tokens in 5 minutes on bloody BitDeploy or whatever. I feel like it's that middle ground there of like balance and Zen Web3 that's really kind of missing in this space to a degree. Obviously, there's lots of companies out there that are doing a fantastic job of it, but you've definitely got both extremes, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And honestly, I would prefer if they actually spent the majority into their marketing without much even happening in their development yet, because then at least it allows, if you build the community, it allows for them to actually have a say in where the project development goes. So that has worked a lot previously. It's just when they maximize everything into the development, exactly as you guys have said, what can you then do if you can't bring eyeballs towards it? You'll have the best tech and then it just sizzles out because there's nothing you can do.
Not even just that, like another problem that comes from investing all your time and money into what you think is going to be the right product is that you could build the right product for yourself. However, when the customer gets it right, they're like, well, I don't like this. That doesn't solve my problem. So that's you know, I'm sure it's been a problem for as long as business has been business, right? Where you, as the founder, I call it the founder syndrome, where you, as the founder, think you've got the best idea. You're like, oh my God, this is the best. It's going to change the world. Everybody's going to love it. But then because you don't actually do any product market fit research and actually chat to the community, and it sounds just based on this conversation, Sian, that, you know, community is even more important these days in Web3 than it's ever been before. So I guess what are ways from a Web3 perspective that founders can avoid this problem?
Yep, I would probably suggest at least starting the socials pretty early on, like securing your name, securing your URL, and then just start building. And it can be really, really small, because if you have those initial vanity metrics, like a certain number of followers in your Discord and Twitter, certain number of engagements, you're more likely to, when you have the tech developed, attract the ideal buyers in, because no one wants to be the first investor, right? They want to know that there's already hype, there's already something going on to allow them to even contemplate investing. So starting with that pretty early, even if it's not much, it's just to get the general feel, and then just asking the community to decide, jumping on some AMAs. That's like a Twitter space, ask me anything, and just hearing where it kind of goes. And you don't have to say yes to anything, but the beauty of Web3 is that most people do have a say and they want their voice to be heard. So opening it up in Discord, in Twitter, maybe a voting system is what I see most currently, especially with DAOs. And that's a decentralized autonomous organization that are literally only built and run for the community. It's just these guys interacting. They usually
built
just
for the community, run by the community.
Yeah, legit. So I'd say just start getting that voting in.
Yeah.
Now, it's an interesting question, because like one of the things about, you know, parables, right? Look before you leap, but strike while the iron's hot. You've always got one and you've got a counter argument, right? So the wisdom of the crowd, DAOs are basically built on the concept of the wisdom of the crowd, right? You know, if you get enough people, get a group together, the group will figure out what they want. But at the same time, too many cooks spoil the broth. So I would just suggest you strike that line, because you start bringing a lot of people in, you start getting opinions from everybody. They may be well informed on what you're trying to do. They may not. They may know where you're trying to go. There's a very good chance they don't. They probably don't have the, you know, to be a successful founder, you need a vision. And a lot of the times people will tell you, if you have naysayers out there, people tell you that, you know, what you're doing isn't correct or it's not going to work, right? Absolutely. Be sensible. Don't be so arrogant that you think that you're the only one with this genius idea. It might be true. There's a good chance it's not. But at the same time, that advice seems to run counter to the idea of a DAO, where you're effectively inviting people to come in and not only offer their criticism, but promise that you will act in the direction that they want to go instead. So how do you think you'd find a balance that line between the vision of and the wisdom of the crowds?
Yeah, definitely based on goals and values. If they purely just want to be a DAO, they already know they're handing it over to the will of the community, and that will kind of take form with whatever the community want. If you want to create something that you believe will have this long-lasting effect and just change humanity, you can, and I definitely suggest going with what the community wants, adding in those little things. Usually they don't ask for too much. It's not too crazy. It will be the standardized things, like they want staking because they want to be able to earn and hold your NFTs, or coins, or whatever it might be. It might be some play to earn. You might have specific communities within there. But if you can get around the right people, it's like that famous saying that you are the median of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So in the Web3 community, there are incredible people, there are incredible events that you can go to start learning who can be your eyes and ears, your team, your advisors, and start building out that way. And again, these alpha collabs, which alpha communities are communities of investment groups. They typically all invest in the same things together. Since we've started adding this onto our servicing, when they start kind of collaborating and partnering with projects, they will offer these specific ideas from the founder level to the other founders, because they're incentivized to help their own personal community gain and earn and stay in it. So if you can get around people like that, it's a really beautiful industry.
Well, look, I want to do something different right now. We've been talking a lot of high level stuff. I want to get down to the nitty gritties, Sian. So we've been talking about how important it is to build a community for these new founders, and like that in itself is a generalization, right? What does that mean? Can you give the people that are watching who may be in a position where they are a new founder and, you know, maybe they're not quite at the stage yet where they're ready to take on board an organization like MoonLanding, they're kind of more so in that infancy. What kind of actionable steps can they start to take to start to build a bit of a community? How do they do it? Where do they do it? Like, what do they do?
Yeah, so I'd probably say simplify. Like, there are so many social media platforms out there. If you can simplify down to 2, where in those early stages, you will just have to trade your time. Twitter and Discord will be the main 2 that most DGens use. Start posting, start getting a name for yourself. If you can get the initial vanity metrics, we usually say that you need at least 3,000 followers on Discord, 3,000 followers on Twitter, just to be kind of taken seriously in the industry for collabs and partnerships. Otherwise, if you're cross-pollinating, you're not offering any value to those guys. So just work towards that. It's actually pretty easy to get there in a fast way. We do actually have a course. We usually give it to all of our team or any project that comes on board for free. But if someone's not ready for that initial steps first, it might be something that we can give out as part of something that we do here with you guys, for anyone who reads this podcast or watches, tunes in. And it's how can I fast track my followers to 5,000 people on Twitter and an extra 5,000 on Discord? How can I prospect those collabs? How can I actually start creating those meaningful conversations that convert and allow us to share our networks? What kind of AMAs shall I do? What kind of messaging shall I put out in personal branding? If anyone's interested in that, they can give me a message. We can link whatever details we need. But I'd say just start. It is just about jumping into the industry. And if you get one amazing partnership, one amazing collab, you can then turn that from sharing whitelists to an AMA, to now you probably can go into their metaverse or vice versa, or share NFTs, or just keep adding that. And it somehow springboards into this whole ecosystem that you've created together, and then you replicate it with the next person.
Cool. So it sounds like you have an idea, step 1. You as a founder are passionate about that idea. Step 2, you then create all your socials. You then start to be active on those socials, being, primarily Twitter and Discord. And by active, that means posting, commenting on other people's posts that are, I guess, in the space that you're looking to work in. And I'm imagining then also, inviting them to come back and join your Discord, right? At the same time, step 3, start looking out there for some sort of strong partnership that you can make with a collaboration partner. And then based on what I've just heard you say, after that, you then start to tap into a bit of momentum, and you start to get that momentum effect. Is that right?
Yeah. What I personally do, I am all about strategy. So what I usually take founders through is basically strategizing the whole launch so that you can be really clear with your community on, this is stage 1, this is our roadmap, Stage 2 looks like this, stage 3 looks like this. During stage 2, we give back X amount to specific charity, or whatever it might look like. And so for any founders watching, it's the kind of basis of that strategy is how many, what are you looking to sell? If we just go for NFTs, because it's super, super easy, let's say it's 10,000. Currently, we are in that bear market. Can we make it super safe to launch? Can we break it up into stages, maybe 3 different stages? What's the easiest amount we can launch first? It's probably going to be 1,000 NFTs. Is there a specific price point everyone feels comfortable with within the market? You can either do some research, or I can tell you right now, it's typically to start with 0.06 to 0.08 Ethereum, which is currently like 120 USD. If they can do that and they sell 1,000 for 120 USD each, they're looking at 120K profit. That's kind of what they're looking to, at least for the first 3 months, focus towards. And then strategizing the rest, and what can they give back to the community for that, like the utilities we spoke about earlier. Is there a play to earn element or a staking element, or what other value can they group in there? Is there a free mint they might be offering? Is there specific partnerships, real life events? And then just strategizing as they go with more and more. It's all about value currently. They just want the value.
You took the question out of my mouth, actually. I was going to bring that up, right? So value is, and we've spoken about this before around, integrating value into NFTs, right? And it's the big buzzword with a lot of communities, a lot of founders at the moment. I think those of you out there who watch this podcast in the past have known that I have occasionally not spoken with the kindest words towards some of the NFT projects that are out there in the past. And I will freely admit it. I wasn't. Look, I'm not going to bruise into all of it. I think there was a lot of the whole space, the Web3 space. There are some projects that probably weren't the most, well-intentioned projects. Squid comes to mind, Safe Moon, a few others. But I also did misinterpret a lot of some of the NFT communities, some of the art. There's a lot of intrinsic value in there that I think probably wasn't appreciated. So come with me on my journey. But also, I think, we're starting to move towards a point now where that value is starting to be baked in. People are starting to realize that while you can join, you can join, you get the community benefits. You can also, a lot of people just really like the art, right? There's some really awesome art out there from some of these projects that's actually very, very cool. But what I was wondering is, what are the trends that you're seeing when it comes to value? Because one of the problems that's always plagued the Web3, particularly from like a tokenomic perspective or an NF tokenomic perspective, I suppose, is the creation and maintenance of value in a sealed ecosystem, right? Because you can do earn to play and you can do reward tokens and all this kind of stuff, but then what you're earning needs to then be able to provide some value. And if the value from those is that you can use it to get more tokens, then it starts to become a little bit of a waterfall effect. I'm not going to use the word, but there now seems to be a lot of integration with external value sources, right? Where you really derive value from is interacting with the ecosystem around you, or with the greater world. How does it enrich your life? How does it make things better? So what are some of those mechanisms? Like what are the trends in the sector moving towards when it comes to that kind of thing?
Amazing. Good question. So it brings up 2 projects to mind, because as we all know, if you are into Web3, you need Web3 or Web2 to understand the Web3 for this to really keep moving at the trajectory that it is. So getting some real world tie downs is very, very crucial for the industry. We're currently working with some amazing people that are, for example, fractionalizing their whole Web2 business and offering NFTs as 1 share. You might buy this NFT, it'd be 1 share or 0.1 share. And that is a really, really cool way to kind of see how this technology is starting to integrate with the real world. We've also got people that have big super yachts. They are now taking people, if you buy an NFT, there are certain tiers in terms of pricing. You might get 3 trips around the world. You might get one trip, or you might get half off, or give it as a gift to someone, just kind of seeing it really take form. But of course,
I thought you were going to say half a trip. Then I'm like, what do? You just dump them off halfway?
Yeah, you're in the Antarctic now. Have fun. Yeah. But it's so cool to see these Web2. But there's so many Web2 brands looking to decentralize. We had Nike and Adidas come into the metaverse with their activewear and their shoes. And if you have like the VR goggles and you look down at someone, or even hold your phone up and you look down, you can see them in augmented reality or virtual reality. And it's so cool to see that progression. So tying it to the real world, I think, is a massive thing, but it doesn't really cut it for those risky Web3 degens who typically they want to know that they can at least maximize their profits on what they're buying by trading it. If they hold it, they want to know that they do get some kind of earning potential. And that's why we were saying like play to earn. That's such a good way to incentivize people to continuously use things within your ecosystem, or staking. Like staking is a huge one now, and there's actually even projects we work with that literally do everything. Most project is currently trying to formalize how they can get every utility possible in the whole world into their project, because the competition is so hot. Wonderland Metaverse, for example, they are a metaverse with real life and Web3 events with lots of integrations to the real world, where you can buy physical assets. They're also doing staking. So you own an NFT, you stake it, that you can play to earn. So the longer you are inside this metaverse, the more you are earning. There's like so many different utilities. And I do think you have to get to that level where you are at least ready to integrate with someone who can provide some of that utility if you don't want to build it out yourself, because your competition is doing it and they're hot. So you kind of have to do a lot now.
Yeah, the metaverse one is an interesting one, right? Because you're right on this. The scope of the industry is huge, but it's also it's a very easily, I noticed you talk about all the brands coming into the NFT space, right? And we kind of went through a bit of you went through like grassroots kind of movement where people got into it and it was heavily focused on art and community. Then it started getting a little bit astroturfed, and now it's just blatant, like, Lamborghini's the example, or Porsche with their 911 NFTs or whatever. Yeah, well played, guys. If you're watching, I know you're not, but great job. So the brands are coming in really strong, and I think the metaverse is going to be another very. It's a natural evolution there, where you can have the community space, but you can also have the corporate space. And when you're talking about the economy, that's kind of what you need, right? You have those brands that are providing those services and creating a value driver and making the funds move around in that economy.
Yeah, because the easiest.
So go.
The easiest way to view Web3, let's just say NFTs, is just like an access pass. It's not really about the artwork any longer. It's just, what does that code behind it actually get for me? And so the collaboration between Web2 and Web3, I think this year we're going to see a lot of that. They're calling it Web 2.5, sort of the amalgamation between both, because there's such an opportunity for Web2 brands to harness Web3 technology to give their already existing incentives.
Absolutely. That kind of leads me into a question that's been bubbling on the back of my mind for the last 3 minutes, which is, I guess, from your perspective, Sian, what is exciting you the most right now in regards to trends or what's happening in the industry? I guess what's got your eyes kind of glued to it?
Yeah. Well, personally,
this is that fresh alpha part talking about. All right, come on, hit us with something.
Hell yeah. Well, there's some really cool things. Real estate, fractionalizing real estate in the Web3 world is a very hot topic. For me personally, I think it's going to allow people, let's say young people who are wanting to potentially get onto that property ladder, giving them the opportunity to get in with a very low threshold, because it's now fractionalized. They don't have to buy the whole property, they buy a fraction. Maybe 10 years down the line, they all sell. That's amazing. Like, that's such a core use case for people, and just allowing the kind of generations now, the ones that are coming out, to really utilize this technology to create generational wealth. It's so cool.
We definitely agree when it comes to the real estate piece, as that is something we are obviously doing quite strongly and in a very different way to anybody else out there. What else has got your eye, Shana?
There's a lot of different use cases. I think, especially with luxury goods, being able to track that, and actually verify it through the blockchain, that is something very, very cool that I'm excited for, with, again, the real world use cases, voting. Or I actually have a client who is creating a decentralized lottery.
Wow.
That is very fun. Like, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, you buy the NFT, you get access to the lottery every week. It's decentralized, so literally you can see everything that gets chosen. It's all recorded on the blockchain. It's a very, very cool project. Yeah.
Interesting.
Or a casino. We're working with a few casinos, either building out in the metaverse. Some of them are offering shares to their companies. And some of them are offering, if you buy this NFT, you get a few free spins every week. So just bridging in the things that people do in their real life with the Web3 tech is just incredible. And I think we are still at the beginning. We're still at the cusp where people are getting involved, but it's not widely understood yet. I think truly, if anyone's watching this thinking, damn, should I be looking at this space seriously? Should I be educating myself? Yes, now is a really, really good time to kind of elevate that skill sets and those knowledge bases within Web3. Especially, I'm a big advocate for women in Web3. I think we need so much more incredible women, because the space is just ripe for it. A woman who is smart in Web3, you can set yourself up and your whole family literally with whatever project you like, as long as you go through the kind of steps we talk about today. Definitely get some advisors on board. Don't think just because you have an idea you're going to be an instant millionaire. There are definitely stages, but you can kind of strategize that out. So yeah, I think it's incredible. I'm fully committed, as you guys can tell, in Web3. Very excited for everything that's coming.
It's funny. I agree completely. And, you know, if we go out into the future, what we see is we'll see some degen at home with his VR goggles on, right? He's going to be sitting on his seat like this, VR goggles on, and he'll be sitting there with his hand up like this, playing the pokies, right? You know, he does the pokey thing, ding, ding, playing those pokies, full VR
you
casino,
can do that
right
now.
Oh,
literally in Oculus, there's an app where you are playing blackjack. I sat in, and someone who was also actively logged in was on the other side of the table. They threw a cigar at me. I don't smoke in real life, but in the metaverse, you know, whatever. No, I'm joking. I just caught it just to see what would happen. I lifted my hand up. It looked like my exact hand in real life. And for a few days, I had to look down at myself and just remind myself, I'm out of the game. It's okay. I'm
out
back.
of the matrix.
Yeah, because it's becoming hyper realistic.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm looking at the time. I'm being cognizant that it is now obviously getting late. So let's start to wrap this up, Sian. If people that are watching, they want to learn more about yourself or MoonLanding, they want to reach out, connect, how do they do that? How can they connect? How can they follow you guys?
You can easily go to MoonLanding.media. That is our website. We've got a news section that's coming out very soon, so stay tuned for that, as well as some wearables. If you guys ever want your NFTs or whatever you might have in physical goods, there's some new things coming. Go on there. You can reach out. So my Web3 degen name, because you get to kind of choose your own, is Phoenix. So you will see Phoenix all around. So if you want to send me an email, it is phoenix@moonlanding.media, where you can connect with me on Twitter, crypto_Sian. And yeah, I'd love to connect. I'd love to hear about your project, how I can help. It's an industry I'm super passionate about, so get involved.
Awesome. Well, guys, you know the deal. We hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have, obviously being on the call with Sian. But go do that. You know the deal, right? Like this, share this with anybody that needs to hear it. Anyway, Sian, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. Right back at you guys.
Awesome. And we will see everybody else in the next episode. Take care.